Breaking news earlier tonight as Paul Chryst is out at Wisconsin, the head coach who has been there for quite a while. I mean, he is finished as the currently third most wins in program history. I mean, he has been an extremely good coach for them for a very long time. So what does exactly this mean for Wisconsin and this program moving forward? Typically, we did not see coaches like this fired in season. What does it mean for the recruiting class? What are they going to do moving forward with the team? New head coach options? Let's find out. So Paul Chryst finishes with a 67-26 record in 7+ seasons at Wisconsin. It is his alma mater. He has won 10 games or more in 4 of his first 5 seasons with the Badgers, including winning a Cotton Bowl, an Orange Bowl, and 3 Big Ten West Division titles. However, things have not looked quite as good for them the past couple seasons, and even this year they have started off at 2-3. They are in last place in the Big Ten West. Chryst has been considered, for the most part, a very great offensive-minded coach. He's had very high-end offenses, and in all honesty, he has been considered almost like a QB guru, this guy who could develop QBs and turn them into something, move them on down the line, possibly even getting NFL draft capital. Everywhere he's gone, he has had a highly regarded offense. But Graham Mertz has not worked out, like, at all. I know after his first game, I believe it was the COVID year, where he threw 5 touchdowns. It was COVID year, 2020. Throws 5 touchdowns in the first game. Everybody's like, okay, here we go. Chryst has got another one. And then he seemingly struggled after that. Was it COVID? Maybe. I mean, he was out for multiple games after that, getting COVID. But even then, just never really seemed to turn it around. They have not done anything wide receiver-wise. One of the co-founders here at Campus to Canton, Felix Sharp, has talked about that multiple times. They've not gotten him weapons, and that is on them in the transfer portal, recruiting classes. They have done nothing. What does this mean now for the recruiting classes? I bring that up. Typically, we don't like to see coaches fired at this point in time because you don't want to see recruiting classes take a dive. Well, Wisconsin's is not great. Right now, overall, they are 57th, and I'm pulling these from 247sports.com. And how they do these is they take a recruit based on their ranking and star value. They give you a number, and they add those together. 57th in the country, and if you go through and look at their recruiting class right now, it is a ton of 3 stars, and it is defensive linemen, offensive linemen. You got a couple athletes, 2 running backs, some cornerbacks, no quarterback. What's even more concerning is they are 12th in the Big Ten. There's 14 teams in the Big Ten, guys. They are 12th. Wisconsin, in my opinion, highly regarded school, not just in the Big Ten, but in all of college football. They are just ahead of an Illinois and Indiana, both who have Illinois is sitting at 137.74 ranking, Illinois at 164.53, and then Wisconsin at 168.21 with 13 commits. They have one 4-star commit so far this year and 13 3-stars, no 5-star commits right now at Wisconsin. I think some of that is due to the poor play from the previous seasons. With him out, they do bring in Jim Leonard, who is the defensive coordinator right now. He came in last year after their old defensive coordinator moved on. But I don't know that Jim Leonard has done much for this team either. This defense has not particularly looked good. And I do think that that's probably the way Wisconsin wants to go in the future. Typically, what we see from college teams and sometimes NFL teams is when they have a coach that is kind of moves one way. So we know Paul Chryst, as I mentioned, they considered him a very good offensive mind QB developer. Typically, you go the other way, whether it's a coach who's easy on players, and then sometimes they go to that disciplinarian, quote unquote. I think that that's the way they're going to go, is possibly a defensive type. Maybe they stick with Jim Leonard if Wisconsin's able to kind of turn their season around, but it's not looking great right now, especially with them entering Big Ten play and already taking a loss to their former head coach too, and Brett Bielema. Like, that probably hurt, maybe sped things up a little bit here in letting go of a Paul Chryst. But if Jim Leonard does keep the job, they need to bring in an offensive coordinator. I was trying to find somebody that I thought could fit this program, and I'm not really finding anybody. There's a couple guys I think might be good fits, but I think they would want the head coaching job. So going from the offensive coordinator side of things, there was 3 guys that really kind of stuck out to me that I think possibly would make the move. Warren Ruggiero, I think that's how you say his name. He is the Wake Forest offensive coordinator. He is from New Jersey, so he's from up north. He knows how those go. He's been a fairly good recruiter as well for Wake Forest. So I do think Wisconsin they need to bring in commits. They need to do well in their recruiting and in the transfer portal. But would that slow mesh offense work in Wisconsin? I don't know. That's the big question for him. Would Josh Gaddis be willing to come back to the Big Ten? We saw what he was able to do with Michigan just a year ago. They were able to beat Ohio State, go into the playoffs. And in all honesty, they looked a lot better when JJ was back there at quarterback. Now, I don't want to say Graham Mertz is anything like JJ. I don't even know if he stays another season right now with everything going on. But Gaddis could be an interesting fit for them as well. Not really working out for him in Miami. It is looking bad at the moment. Maybe he just leaves after 1 year to get a fresh start. Mark Whipple, would he be willing to come back? Good year at Penn State, goes on to Nebraska. I mean, he's staying in the Big Ten. Maybe comes back to a school like Wisconsin. I feel like him and Josh Gaddis both have kind of had like the reins put on them at their current positions. Josh Gaddis, it feels like that happened in Wisconsin. At Michigan, and is now happening in Miami, and he's not really getting to run what he wants. Mark Whipple, was extremely. I'm sorry, I think I was wrong thing. At Pitt, I think I may have said Penn State. I apologize. Please do not roast me, Penn State Pitt fans. I know you're different. I apologize. But was at Pitt and was able to do with Keaton, my goodness, I am butchering this, guys. I apologize. He was able to do that with Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison. Could he come to Wisconsin and help develop a quarterback and get a wide receiver and do that, what he did at Pitt? I would be very intrigued to do so. I mean, Nebraska looked a lot better this past weekend. The other 2 that obviously I know a lot of people will be talking about will be Zach Kittley and Jeff Lebby. I don't know that either one of them would go to Wisconsin to be an offensive coordinator, maybe a head coach. Zach Kittley from Texas, I believe from Abilene. I don't know that he leaves Texas Tech. I think he wants to stay down south and get a job there. Jeff Lebby at Oklahoma. I mean, he's worked well with Dylan Gabriel. Unfortunately, Dylan Gabriel suffers the injury Saturday. We don't know what that offense is going to look like now with Dylan Gabriel out. And will he be willing to go up north too? I don't know. Maybe if they get the head coaching job. There's a couple, though, people that stand out for me on the coaching side of things. I'm gonna give you 3. Bill O'Brien. He's been in the Big Ten before. He's, I think, rebuilt himself at Alabama, like most coaches do when they go to Alabama. The big question will be, does he want an NFL job or does he want a head coaching job in college? I think he can get one in college after the season if he decides to leave Alabama. I don't know about the NFL. I feel like with the way things left, like we know he's a good head coach. He is not a good GM. And I don't think an NFL team would bring him in to do both, but he was a pretty good head coach. The Texans were a good team for a long time under him, head coaching wise. But we saw what he was able to do at Penn State. He made them extremely competitive. They beat Ohio State multiple times. He was good in recruiting. Built them up from realistically almost like a death sentence after the Joe Pa stuff. So I would be very intrigued to see if he'd be willing to go back to the Big Ten and take over what I still believe is a high-end program in the Big Ten if they can get it back going. They should be a team, as I mentioned with what Paul Chryst was able to do and competing for a Big West or the Big Ten West Championship every single year. He should be able to do that with a team like that. Another one I lied. I'm going to give you 4. Would be Matt Rule at Carolina. Things are not going well for the Panthers, and we've seen him rebuild programs as well. Temple, who was actually fairly good under him, and now they are horrible. And obviously Baylor. And if you want to make the comparison, as I just did with Bill O'Brien, brings Baylor back from a massive scandal. We don't have a massive scandal here, but he knows how to build programs. So they are another one that I would be intrigued to see if he does. There's 2 more, both with old attachments, sort of, to the Wisconsin program. Right now, Darrell Bevell. He, I believe, is in the NFL. He's with the Dolphins. He was with Wisconsin back in the Barry Alvarez days. He was the winning quarterback under Barry Alvarez. He has, obviously, in the program. He was the offensive coordinator for Seattle for a couple years, was offensive coordinator last year for Urban Meyer and the Jaguars. He's now with the Miami Dolphins. If he wanted a head coaching shot, I think this would be a chance. Go back to your alma mater. He's an alum again of Wisconsin. Go back there, possibly turn this around again. He's working with quarterbacks now, so maybe he's able to develop Graham Mertz or they bring in a quarterback. But the recruiting part's going to matter, and that's where I don't know if Darrell Bevell has that. I don't know if he has the ability to recruit. So there's two more, and I said I was going to give you four. Now I'm moving on to like five. There's two more because one just popped up in my head when I said recruiting. It's Brian Hartline. I've said before I think he could get a head coaching job. I don't know that he'd want to go to a Wisconsin with it being down this way. He has been allowed to quote unquote help call plays right now at Ohio State. We know how well he's done in recruiting wide receivers. I think he could do that. And I feel like that's one of the worst problems that Wisconsin has right now is they just can't get wide receivers in there. If Hartline goes there and look, I've developed these guys at Ohio State. We put them in the NFL. Now you're coming to Wisconsin and we're going to make that happen for you. If they can get a quarterback, I believe in Brian Hartline to be able to do that for the Wisconsin Badgers. It would be very intriguing. I don't know that he would leave Ohio State. An alum of Ohio State is getting paid very well. They're doing a great job, but he's got a really good class of wide receivers coming in. And typically when we see these guys move on, these recruits, not all of them, but some of them will follow. I wonder if some of these top-end wide receiver recruits would follow him to Wisconsin. Quick, early playing time, those guys could start right off the bat where they're sitting on the bench right now at Ohio State. So he's an intriguing one. The last one for me is going to be the hot name for any coaching vacancy that happens because of what he's doing, and that's Lance Leopold at Kansas. They're undefeated right now, 5-0. He comes over from Buffalo, brings over all these players with him, and they've turned around. Jalen Daniels has looked fantastic with Leopold, and so has Kansas. Now, he has no connections to Wisconsin outside of the fact that with Wisconsin Whitewater, he won 6 national titles. He may want to come back home and do that. He is a native of Wisconsin. Will he be willing to come back home, take over that job? And why I like him the most, because he's doing it with the Kansas school that is a little bit underrated. They're not considered the top in the Big 10 or Big 12. And I don't know the Wisconsin right now with how poor they've played. Are they considered the top in the Big 10 anymore? But he is a great recruiter, not just for guys out of high school, but also in the transfer portal. Lance Leopold could be one of the guys to help turn this around. Now, he's going to be the hot name for practically any school that has a coaching opening because of what he's doing at Kansas. I think any of those guys would be a great fit, whether it's Leopold, whether it's Hartline, whether it's Bevell, Bill O'Brien, Matt Rule. Those are kind of the top 5 ones. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if they stick with the Jim Leonard if he's able to turn it around. He is an alum of the school as well, defensive guy, but they would need to bring in an offensive coordinator. Could they get a Mark Whipple or a Zach Kitley, a Jeff Lebby? I'm even trying to, I don't remember who the other guy was, Josh Gaddis. Could they get one of those guys to come back? Regardless, Wisconsin, I think, could still be a top school and a top program again in college football. And just a couple years away now from 12-team playoffs, I think Wisconsin, if they make the right move now, could be back in those discussions when the 12-team playoff comes as one of the teams coming out of the Big Ten. Guys, thank you so much. If you like this kind of content, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. We are doing everything college football here that we can. Check out our website. All that stuff will be linked in the description below. Everybody, have yourselves a great rest of your night and day, and we will talk to you guys again later.